So, day 5 of COVID patient quarantine hotel was crazy. It's after midnight, but I'm discussing the 2nd of July. So, this morning I had bad chest pains. Um, Decided to go to the emergency room around 12 noon, and I went to, is that Forest Hills Hospital or something? Rough day. They did their jobs. The trouble was trying to get back here. I have a service that takes me to doctor's appointments and stuff, but when it's late or if it's the weekend or if it's an emergency room visit that's not pre-scheduled, then you have to have the hospital staff or someone else call and have a ride set up for you. Can't call yourself unless it's like a appointment that is already that you arrange ahead of time. So being that it's like a last minute thing, and clearly I can't take the bus, no train, too far to walk, and Uber and Lyft and other cab services are not transporting COVID positive, coronavirus positive people anywhere. So I used the service that I already had an account with, and that turned into like the worst experience ever because I called the main dispatch and they have drivers from different companies, so they'll send whomever is nearest, whatever company is based in the same area, or there's a driver nearby or something. That's the company they're gonna send. There's several different companies. So they dispatch a car from Sinai Car Service, and they canceled my ride after I waited so long on the phone. I waited long on the phone. The nurse waited long on the phone to get anyone to arrange the ride, and they canceled it because whomever it is that put the information in didn't put a street number. They just put a street name. They didn't put a door number. So the address was incomplete, so they canceled the ride. I was waiting and waiting for a ride that was not on its way. So I called the car service. I called Sinai, and they're like, we don't have a complete address, so we couldn't send anyone to come get you. So I'm waiting online on the phone again after trying to clear up the whole situation. And a driver arrives. Thank God I'm saved. So I thought. No, not exactly. The driver heard COVID and he's like, oh, I can't take you. Mind you, that's his whole job. Transporting sick people. That's his whole job. And he left me hanging and walked out. After I had to make like 3 different calls just to get anyone to come in the first place because there was an issue with the address, and they're telling me they can't fix it. I need to call back and talk to the supervisor. I'm like, why can't you just transfer me? Oh, because people are working from home and they're on another call, and you can't just sit on hold to talk to a supervisor. You have to call back when they're off of the line or something. And it was like jumping through so many hoops to try to get it straightened out. I asked them, why can't they just create another trip, like start from scratch, create another trip so that they can schedule a driver for me, come pick me up right away and bring me here. Apparently that's not an option. So I had to call back and wait on the phone again to talk to the supervisor just for someone to finally show up and refuse the ride and walk out and leave me hanging. Like, how else do they expect me to get back here when I can't take normal public transportation of any kind? I don't drive, so what are my options? Call back the base, stay on hold again. Finally, someone answers. I had to explain the situation, and they tell me, oh, well, the driver didn't have the complete address, so that's why he refused a ride. That's ridiculous. He's already here. He can just ask me the door number. It's not rocket science to figure that out. It's not like he wasn't here and didn't know where he was picking me up from. He's trying to figure out where to drop me off. So if that was the issue, the simple solution is ask me, what's the door number? But no, he left me at the hospital because he didn't want to transport a COVID patient. Mind you, I had the mask, I had the gloves, the whole thing. And I'm not coughing, I'm not sneezing, I don't have a fever, any of those obvious outward issues that makes people highly susceptible to contracting COVID from me, because I'm not spewing out saliva or anything. So it's harder to get it from someone who doesn't have those symptoms, the most contagious symptoms. So I was highly upset when the base, I don't know, I guess they were trying to cover for the driver. Oh, drivers can refuse a client or whatever. Yeah, if the person's being irate or threatening or dangerous in some way, sure. But to refuse someone who you're scheduled to transport because of COVID, when the base sent them knowing that I was positive, knowing I was going to a quarantine hotel. So explain to me how, when the driver gets here, it's a problem, when that was already made clear to dispatch. Like, why do you even come? It's an emergency room. If I didn't have it, 9 times out of 10, you walked past 10 other people, because he came all the way inside the building. He came all the way to the room that I was in by myself. So you don't walk past probably 10, 15 other COVID patients just to get to me, and he didn't have any gloves. And he was using a wheelchair to come to pick me up, to take me back outside. So you're touching hospital property or property used to transport sick people, and you probably walk past several other COVID people just to get to me, and it's a problem to transport me. And you tell dispatch that, oh, the address was incorrect. That wasn't the issue, because we had already straightened that out. The issue was you didn't want to transport a COVID patient. That's what you told the nurse. And the nurse let me know that's how you felt. So finally, dispatch got someone who was willing to transport me. It's a big old van. I'm sitting way in the back. One of those accessoride kind of type of vans, like a party bus looking situation, but it was white, that you can stand up in and everything. And I'm sitting deep in the back, far from the driver. I have my mask on, I have my gloves on, and it was no problem. He was very professional and a pleasure to ride with. Did a great job. That was a whole different service. I don't remember the name on the side of the van, but I remember it was bus number 29. That's all I can remember. But he was great. And then after all that stress of like hours of trying to get transportation, I get here and they were telling me, well, we have a team that has to evaluate your ability to stay here anymore. We have to make sure that your status hasn't changed, and that you're able to care for yourself in order to stay here. What is the issue? Like, it's after 11. I haven't eaten all day. I'm tired. I don't feel well. I need to lay down. I was freezing my butt off in the hospital for the last, 5, 6, 7 hours. And I want nothing more than to just lie down and get some rest. And now it's a whole bunch of jumping through extra hoops just to get into a room that I was already in. Now, clearly, if I was too sick or feeble or anything to take care of myself, the hospital would have kept me, right or wrong. So what are we talking about here? So I was downstairs for over an hour, waiting for them to analyze my discharge paperwork and to get information from the hospital as to what tests or medications was administered before they allow me back. All that. Over an hour. I just now got back into this room at 1:22. 1:22. And I've been downstairs since like after 11. This is crazy. And I was like, what is the issue? What is really the problem? Because if I had known when I left it was going to be an issue for me to get back in here, I would have just taken everything with me and had the driver take me home instead of bothering to come here. And I probably won't even be allowed to stay. Like, what is the issue? If I had known there was any possibility that I would have wasted my time coming back here, I would have just taken all my stuff to begin with and not come back, period. Because, like, no one explained any of this to me when I first got here, nor when I left to go to the ER. So where's this all coming from now all of a sudden? This is the first I'm hearing of it. I'm confused. Help me understand. Oh, you just want to make sure that your status hasn't changed and you're still able to care for yourself because there's another quarantine hotel that is a little bit more intensive with the care and you might be better off there and this and that. Listen, I'm tired. Can I please? I'm fine. I walked in here on my own 2 feet. Not on a stretcher, not in a wheelchair. I walked in on my own 2 feet. I can take myself to the bathroom. I can give myself a shower. I don't need intensive care. If I needed intensive care, I would have stayed at the hospital. So what are we talking about? I was so frustrated, trying to talk as calmly as I could. And they can't really even read my face because I had the mask on the whole time. So, Christ Jesus. If it ain't one thing, it's another. Oh, well, if we had known, you should have called us ahead of time and we would have arranged transportation because we know how difficult it is to try to get transportation from the hospital under these circumstances. But why didn't you tell me that on my way out the door? They have a folder on the desk with information about the rules and stuff and what's going on and the food schedules and everything. Why didn't they hand me a piece of paper that says here's the routine for when you go to the ER and call this number and transportation will be worked out for you and we can evaluate you before you even get back here to know where to take you next. Nothing of the sort was shared with me upon my arrival, nor when I went to the ER. So I was super frustrated after I just went through a whole bunch of arguing with the dispatch people. I have an account with you. Your whole job is to transport 6 people. What is the problem? Did you not know there was such thing as COVID patients in New York in an ER? And this was explained to you before you sent any driver at all. And then this facility tells me, oh, we would have picked you up. Oh, we would have evaluated your ability to stay here prior if we had known. You would have gotten to evaluate my ability to stay here and send me a driver had you given me that information, but you didn't. So it's not my fault that I'm waiting downstairs so long for you to get whatever it is figured out. It's your fault for not providing me with that information ahead of time because I definitely would have called ahead of time and you guys would have figured out whatever needs to be figured out before I got here. Very frustrating day. So she offered me a cup of tea She offered to heat up dinner that was, still here. They served dinner since 6 o'clock, and mind you, it was it was towards midnight when I got here. So she reheated the food for me. I ate half of it or so downstairs. I drank the tea. I had polite conversation with a staff member, and passed the time. And then when I was just freezing beyond belief, I stepped outside of the lobby at the front entrance for warmth until they figured out life, because this is too much. This is too much. So frustrating. I went through a lot today. I had a really long day, and it's like the COVID is not what's going to kill me. It's the stress and the headache that might take me down. You don't want to go through this. This is worse than having COVID for me. God bless everybody else, whoever had it, and their families. Be safe.